Welcome, my friend. You've just clicked on something that might change the way you live for the rest of your life. Think about it. How many times in the past week did someone's words or actions bother you? Maybe it was a rude driver honking at you. Maybe your boss snapped at you without reason. Maybe a family member said something that triggered old wounds. And what happened inside you? Anger, frustration, stress. You replayed the scene in your head 100 times, right? You thought about what you should have said, or what you will say next time. And the whole day, sometimes even the whole week, got ruined by one small moment. Now, imagine living a life where none of this could disturb your peace. Imagine if no insult, no rejection, no criticism, no rude comment, no betrayal, no failure, could shake your calm. Wouldn't that be the greatest freedom of all? That's exactly what this audiobook is about. How to never get angry or bothered by anyone, no matter what they do. But let's be clear, this is not about becoming emotionless or robotic. It's about becoming strong inside. It's about understanding yourself so deeply that nothing outside of you has the power to control you anymore. This wisdom isn't new. Great teachers, from Buddha to Stoic philosophers, from saints to modern psychologists, have taught the same lesson in different words. Peace is not found by controlling the world. Peace is found by controlling yourself. And in the chapters ahead, I'm going to walk you through 15 powerful lessons that will help you master this art. We'll explore stories, psychology, spiritual wisdom, and practical tools you can use every single day. I'll explain everything in simple English, so it feels like a friendly conversation, not a heavy lecture. By the end of this audiobook, you will know why people's words trigger you, and how to instantly stop it. How to deal with criticism without losing your cool. The simple mental shifts to turn anger into calm. How to stay peaceful even in the middle of chaos. And most importantly, how to become untouchable, so that no one, no matter what they say or do, can disturb your inner balance. So, sit back, relax, and let's begin this journey together. Because once you learn this, life will never bother you the same way again. Chapter 1. Why you get angry. The root cause of emotional reactions. Let's start with a simple question. Why do we get angry? Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly your blood pressure rises. A coworker criticizes your work, and your heart starts racing. A family member ignores your feelings, and you feel a storm building inside. But here's the truth. It's not the traffic, the criticism, or the person that's making you angry. It's something deeper. And until you understand the root cause, you'll always feel like a puppet being controlled by the outside world. So let's pull back the curtain. The hidden script in your mind. Imagine this, you're watching a movie, and the hero gets betrayed. You feel angry on his behalf. Why? Because in your mind, betrayal is wrong. Now, the same thing happens in your real life. Someone disrespects you, and instantly your mind says, "This is wrong. This should not happen to me." This is the hidden script inside your head, the beliefs, expectations, and rules you carry about how people should behave. People should respect me. Friends should always support me. Strangers should treat me with kindness. Life should be fair. But here's the problem. The world doesn't follow your script. And when reality doesn't match your expectation, anger is born. Anger is nothing but the gap between expectation and reality. The psychology of triggers. Let me give you a psychological perspective. When something happens that feels threatening, like disrespect, rejection, or unfairness, your brain activates the amygdala, the part responsible for survival instincts. It's like an alarm system that screams, "Danger! Protect yourself." That's why anger feels so intense. Your body prepares for fight or flight. Heartbeat rises. Breathing becomes shallow. Muscles tighten. Thoughts become sharp and fast. It's your body's way of preparing to attack or defend. But here's the catch. Most of the time, there's no real danger. Nobody's chasing you with a stick. It's just words, opinions, or situations. Yet your mind reacts as if it's a life-or-death battle. That's why understanding triggers is so important. Once you see them for what they are, you can step back and choose peace instead of reacting blindly. A story. The insult that changed everything. Let me tell you a story from the life of Buddha. One day, a man came and insulted Buddha with harsh words. He shouted, accused, and tried everything to provoke him. But Buddha just sat calmly, listening without anger. Finally, the man asked, "Why are you not getting angry? Don't my words bother you?" Buddha smiled and replied, "If someone gives you a gift and you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The man said, "Of course, it stays with the giver." Buddha said, "Exactly. I do not accept your anger. It remains with you." This story shows us something powerful. It's not the insult that hurts you, it's your decision to accept it. Looking deeper, what are you protecting? So why do we accept anger? Why do we let others' words enter us so deeply? Because anger is always protecting something, usually your ego. Think about it. When someone disrespects you, your ego feels attacked. When someone ignores you, your ego feels invisible. When someone criticizes you, your ego feels unworthy. Anger is the shield your mind uses to protect the fragile self-image you carry. But here's the irony. The more you protect the ego, the more fragile it becomes. The stronger you build your inner self, the less there is to protect, and the calmer you naturally become. A simple exercise. Pause and ask. Here's something you can try the next time you feel anger rising. Step 1. Pause for just 3 seconds. Step 2. Ask yourself, what am I protecting right now? Is it your pride? Your desire to be respected? Your need to be right? This simple awareness will show you that anger is not about the other person. It's about you. Once you see this clearly, you can begin to let go. The ocean analogy. Imagine you are the ocean. Waves crash on the surface, but deep down, the water is calm and still. Right now, most people live only on the surface of life. Every small wave, every insult, every inconvenience, shakes them. But the truth is, your mind can become like the deep ocean. Still, strong, unshaken. Anger is only a surface wave. If you dive deeper into yourself, you'll find peace that no storm can disturb. The root cause summarized. So let's put it all together. Why do you get angry? Because your expectations don't match reality. Because your brain treats small triggers as threats. Because your ego feels attacked and tries to defend itself. But here's the good news. Once you see the root cause, you're no longer a blind victim of anger. You can pause, reflect, and choose differently. And that's exactly what we'll learn in the coming chapters. Closing message for this chapter. Anger is not caused by people, events, or words. It is caused by your reaction to them. When you realize this, you hold the key to freedom. Because if anger is born inside you, it can also die inside you, through awareness, practice, and understanding. In the next chapter, we'll explore the illusion of control, why you can't control people, but can control yourself. This will take you one step closer to becoming truly unshakable. So stay with me. The journey has just begun. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Control. Why you can't control people, but can control yourself. Let's begin this chapter with a truth that can feel uncomfortable at first, but deeply freeing once you accept it. You cannot control other people. You cannot control what they say. You cannot control what they think. You cannot control how they treat you. And yet, most of our anger, frustration, and stress comes from trying to do exactly that. Control people and situations that are beyond our reach. If you've ever felt frustrated because someone didn't behave the way you expected, or disappointed because life didn't unfold according to your plan, then you've experienced the illusion of control. This chapter is about breaking that illusion and understanding where your real power lies. Not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. The trap of control. Think about the last time you were upset with someone. Maybe a friend didn't return your call. Maybe your partner forgot something important. Maybe a stranger was rude. What was the thought running through your head? They shouldn't have done that. Why can't they just change? If only they behaved differently, I'd be fine. Notice the pattern. You place your peace of mind in someone else's hands. You assume happiness depends on their behavior. And when they don't act as you wish, you suffer. This is the trap. You're trying to control the uncontrollable. It's like trying to stop the wind with your bare hands. A lesson from the Stoics. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus said something powerful. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Within our control are our thoughts, our choices, our responses. Outside our control are other people, the past, the future, and almost everything else. The Stoics believed that the root of human suffering comes from confusing these two. When we waste energy trying to control what we cannot, we create endless frustration. But when we focus only on what we can control, we find peace. A simple analogy: the remote control. Imagine you're holding a TV remote, but the batteries are dead. No matter how many times you press the buttons, the channel won't change. Now imagine you keep pressing harder, shaking the remote, even shouting at it, but nothing happens. That's exactly what happens when you try to control others. They are not wired to follow your commands. Pressing harder only leaves you more exhausted. But here's the good news. While you can't control the channel of life, you can control your reaction to what appears on the screen. You can decide whether to watch calmly, change your own perspective, or even walk away. A real-life example. Consider road rage. Why do people get so angry while driving? Because they believe other drivers should follow their personal rules of the road. They think, that guy shouldn't cut me off. That car should move faster. That driver should signal. But here's reality. Other drivers will do what they do. They may follow the rules, or they may not. Getting angry doesn't change their behavior. It only spoils your peace. Now imagine another driver in the same situation who simply shrugs and says, "That's just how people drive sometimes," and continues calmly. Same situation, different response. The difference is control. One person is trying to control others, the other is controlling himself. The freedom of letting go. When you finally accept that you cannot control people, something magical happens. You stop wasting energy on battles you can never win. Instead, you redirect that energy toward yourself. You focus on your own reactions, your own mindset, your own choices. This shift is what creates inner peace. Here's the paradox. The less you try to control others, the more influence you actually gain. People respect calmness. They trust those who remain steady under pressure. By controlling yourself, you often inspire others to do the same. The circle of control exercise. Here's a simple exercise that can change your perspective. Draw 2 circles on a piece of paper. In the smaller inner circle, write things you can control. Your thoughts, your actions, your habits, your attitude. In the larger outer circle, write things you cannot control. Other people's opinions, their choices, the past, the future, random events. Whenever you feel stressed or angry, look at your circles. Ask yourself, is this in my control or not? If it's in the outer circle, let it go. If it's in the inner circle, take responsibility and act. This practice trains your mind to stop fighting battles that don't belong to you. A story from everyday life. Let's say you work in an office, and a colleague constantly criticizes you. You think, if only they would stop, I'd be happy. But notice, their behavior is outside your control. What's in your control? How you respond. You could react with anger and create more conflict. Ignore them and keep your peace. Improve your work so their criticism loses power. Or calmly communicate your boundaries. All of these are choices within your control. And that's where your strength lies. Shifting from control to influence. It's important to understand that letting go of control doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you stop caring or give up. Instead, it means you shift from control to influence. You can't control if someone respects you, but you can act in ways that earn respect. You can't control if people are kind, but you can choose kindness yourself, which often inspires kindness in return. Control demands certainty. Influence accepts uncertainty but still takes action. That's the difference. The core insight. So here is the core insight of this chapter. You suffer when you try to control others. You find peace when you focus only on controlling yourself. The more you let go of the illusion of control, the more free you become. Life flows more easily. Anger loses its grip on you. Closing thoughts. Take a deep breath and reflect on this. The only person you truly control in this world is yourself. That's it. And that's enough. Because when you master yourself, the world cannot shake you. People can act as they will, but you remain steady. Situations can change, but you stay calm. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into this idea by exploring how the ego fuels anger and why learning to step beyond it is the key to peace. Chapter 3: Ego and the Fire of Anger. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you got really angry? Maybe someone insulted you. Maybe a friend forgot to invite you somewhere. Maybe your boss spoke to you harshly. Now, pause and think carefully. What exactly was hurt in that moment? Was your body harmed? Probably not. Was your life in danger? Most likely, no. So what was attacked? It was your ego. The truth is, most anger is not about real danger. It's about a bruise to the self-image we carry inside. When the ego feels attacked, the fire of anger begins to burn. In this chapter, we'll explore the relationship between ego and anger. We'll see why protecting the ego only keeps you trapped, and how loosening your attachment to it can make you unshakable. What is ego, really? When we hear the word ego, we often think it means arrogance or pride. But ego is deeper than that. Ego is the image of yourself that you carry in your mind. It's the story you tell yourself about who you are. I am intelligent. I am respected. I am important. I am kind. These labels form your identity. And whenever someone says or does something that challenges this identity, you feel pain. That pain often turns into anger. For example, if you see yourself as a smart person and someone calls you foolish, the ego feels threatened. It wants to fight back. Not to protect your body, but to protect your story. The mirror of other people. Think of other people as mirrors. They reflect back to you things you may not want to see. When someone criticizes you, you feel angry because the reflection doesn't match the picture you hold of yourself. But here's the twist. Mirrors only show what they show. They don't create reality. Just because someone calls you worthless doesn't make you worthless. Just because someone ignores you doesn't erase your existence. It's your ego that takes their reflection personally. A story. The king's anger. There's a story from ancient India about a king who was known for his temper. One day, a poor man accidentally spilled water on the king's robe during a feast. The king, humiliated in front of his guests, became furious. He ordered the man to be punished. Later, a wise sage asked the king, "Why were you so angry over a few drops of water?" The king replied, "Because he insulted my dignity." The sage smiled and said, "If your dignity can be destroyed by water, perhaps it was never real to begin with." This story shows us something powerful. What we often protect as ego is fragile, almost imaginary. It can be shattered by the smallest things, a word, a look, a mistake. Psychology of ego and anger. Modern psychology agrees. Research shows that anger is often a defense mechanism. When people feel insecure, powerless, or small, they use anger to cover up the weakness. Think of it like armor. The ego feels vulnerable, so it puts on the heavy shield of anger. The louder you get, the more you hope nobody notices your inner insecurity. But armor is heavy. Carrying anger drains you. And the more you wear it, the weaker you actually become. A common example. Imagine someone cuts in front of you in a line. Your mind instantly says, "How dare they disrespect me?" Notice, the problem is not really the waiting time. You'd happily wait an extra minute if no one disrespected you. What hurts is the ego's sense of importance. This is why two people in the same situation react differently. One feels insulted and explodes. The other simply smiles and lets it go. The difference lies in how tightly they cling to their ego. Stepping beyond ego. So how do you free yourself from this trap? By realizing that the ego is not your true self. You are not your labels. You are not your reputation. You are not other people's opinions. When you see this clearly, anger loses its fuel. Because there's nothing left to protect. Think about the sky. The sky is vast, open, untouched by storms. Clouds may come and go, but the sky remains the same. That's your true self, spacious, calm, beyond ego. Anger is just a storm passing through. It cannot harm the sky. Practice the ego check. Here's a practice you can try the next time anger rises. Pause. Ask yourself, what part of my ego is being hurt right now? Is it my pride? My need to be respected? My image of being right? Then ask, if I drop this image, what remains? You'll notice something surprising. Without the ego, the anger disappears. Because the real you, the calm observer, was never attacked in the first place. The cost of ego. Ego doesn't just cause anger. It damages relationships, creates conflict, and keeps you stuck. How many friendships have ended because someone's ego was hurt? How many arguments between couples are not about the real issue, but about pride? Who's right, who's wrong, who apologizes first? If you trace back most conflicts, you'll see the fire of ego burning at the center. Letting go of ego doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. You no longer waste energy defending illusions. You respond with clarity, not emotion. A story, Gandhi and the insults. Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of India's freedom movement, was often insulted, ridiculed, and attacked. But he rarely reacted with anger. When asked how he stayed calm, he said, "They are insulting a Gandhi that exists in their mind, not me. Why should I be angry at an image that is not real?" This is the wisdom of a person who has stepped beyond ego. He knew that insults do not touch the real self. They only bounce off the illusion others create. Closing thoughts. Let's bring this all together. Anger is often a sign that your ego is under attack. But the ego is not who you truly are. It is just a story, a fragile mask. The more you cling to it, the more easily you get disturbed. The more you let it go, the freer you become. So the next time anger rises, pause and ask, is this really about me, or just about my ego? That simple awareness can put out the fire before it burns. In the next chapter, we'll explore triggers and buttons, how people hook your emotions and how to disarm them. This will show you why certain words or actions get under your skin, and how to stay calm no matter what buttons others press. Chapter 4, Triggers and Buttons. How people hook your emotions and how to disarm them. Have you ever wondered why some people's words affect you so much, while the same words from others don't bother you at all? For example, if a stranger on the street calls you stupid, you might laugh and ignore it. But if your close friend, your partner, or your boss says the same word, suddenly, it stings. Why is that? Because every person has emotional triggers, hidden buttons that, when pressed, cause a strong reaction. And most of the time, people press those buttons without even realizing it. In this chapter, we'll explore how these triggers are formed, why they control us, and most importantly, how you can disarm them so no one can pull you into anger or frustration again. What are triggers? A trigger is anything, a word, a gesture, a tone of voice, even a memory, that activates an emotional reaction inside you. It's like someone pressing a button that instantly lights up anger, sadness, or insecurity. If you were often criticized as a child, you may get triggered easily by criticism as an adult. If you grew up feeling ignored, being left out may trigger deep hurt. If you value respect, any small sign of disrespect might set off your anger. The trigger itself is neutral. Just a word, just an action. But your mind attaches meaning to it, based on past experiences. That's why triggers are so powerful. The story of the wounded soldier. There's a story about a soldier who returned home after war. Whenever he heard fireworks, he would panic and hide. For others, fireworks meant celebration. For him, they triggered memories of gunfire. This story shows us something important. The trigger is not the problem. The meaning your mind gives to the trigger is the problem. The soldier's reaction wasn't about the sound itself, but about the memory connected to it. In the same way, when someone insults you, it's not just their words. It's the memory, the insecurity, the wound inside you that reacts. Why do we have buttons? Think of buttons as old wounds that never fully healed. Someone once told you that you're not good enough. Maybe you believed it. That belief stayed in your subconscious like a scar. Now, whenever someone says something similar, that scar gets touched, and you feel pain again. This is why two people can hear the same insult, but only one gets angry. One has a button there, the other doesn't. The button test. Here's something you can try. Think about the last 3 times you got angry. Write down what exactly triggered you. Was it disrespect? Rejection? Being ignored? Feeling powerless? You'll notice a pattern. These are your buttons. Once you identify them, you begin to see the truth. People are not making you angry. They are just pressing buttons that already exist inside you. A story: the sage and the insults. There's a story of a sage who was constantly insulted by villagers. One day, his disciple asked, "Master, why don't you react? Don't their words hurt you?" The sage replied, "If a man has a sore wound and someone touches it, he will scream in pain. But if there is no wound, the touch does nothing. Their insults only hurt if there is a wound inside me. I have healed, so nothing touches me." This story holds the key. If you heal your inner wounds, no one can press your buttons anymore. The psychology of triggers. Psychologists explain that triggers are linked to the brain's memory system. The amygdala, the brain's alarm center, doesn't know the difference between past and present. So when something reminds you of an old hurt, your brain reacts as if it's happening right now. That's why the reaction feels so intense, even if the situation is small. But here's the good news: awareness rewires the brain. The more you observe your triggers without reacting, the weaker they become. Over time, the buttons lose their power. How to disarm your triggers. Let's talk about practical steps. Step 1. Notice the trigger. The moment you feel your heart race or your body tense, pause. Ask yourself, what just triggered me? Naming it gives you control. Step 2. Separate the past from the present. Tell yourself, this is just a memory being activated. The situation now is not the same as back then. This breaks the automatic link. Step 3. Breathe before reacting. Take a deep breath. Even a 5-second pause creates space between the trigger and your response. Step 4. Heal the wound. Journal, meditate, or talk about the old experiences that created your button. The more you process them, the less power they hold. Step 5. Reframe the meaning. Instead of thinking, "They disrespected me," try, "They are speaking from their own pain. It has nothing to do with me." Reframing changes the story your mind tells. A practical example. Let's say your trigger is being ignored. Your friend doesn't reply to your message, and instantly you feel angry. The button has been pressed. Now, instead of reacting, you pause. You ask yourself, why does this hurt? You realize it's not about the message. It's about an old fear of not being valued. With awareness, you reframe, maybe they are busy. Maybe this has nothing to do with me. Suddenly, the trigger loses its grip. Your peace is protected. The secret of power. Here's the secret. People only have power over you if they can press your buttons. If you remove the buttons, they lose that power. It's like having armor. Once your wounds are healed, insults bounce off. Criticism becomes feedback. Disrespect becomes meaningless. You stay calm because there's nothing left for others to touch. Closing thoughts. Triggers and buttons are not the enemy. They are teachers. They show you where you are still vulnerable, where healing is needed. The more you identify and heal them, the less control the outside world has over you. So the next time someone presses your button, instead of reacting, smile inwardly and think, "Thank you for showing me where I still need to grow." That mindset turns triggers into opportunities. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into the idea of emotional detachment. How to stay calm in chaos, and why detachment is not coldness, but the highest form of strength. Chapter 5. The Art of Emotional Detachment. When you hear the word detachment, what comes to mind? For many people, detachment sounds cold, like you don't care about anyone or anything. But that's not true at all. In fact, real emotional detachment is one of the greatest strengths you can develop. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you stop allowing your happiness and peace to be controlled by things you cannot control. In this chapter, we'll explore what detachment really means, why it's the secret to staying calm in chaos, and how you can practice it in everyday life without losing warmth or love. What emotional detachment is, and isn't. Let's clear one big misunderstanding first. Emotional detachment is not apathy. It doesn't mean you become like a rock, with no feelings. Detachment simply means you care, but you don't cling. You love, but you don't lose yourself. You enjoy life, but you don't depend on it for your identity. It's like holding a butterfly. If you hold it gently, it stays. If you grip it too tightly, you harm it and yourself. Detachment is that gentle hold. A story, The Monk and the River. There's a story of two monks walking by a river. They saw a woman struggling to cross. One monk carried her across on his back. Later, the other monk said, "Brother, we are monks. We're not supposed to touch women. Why did you do that?" The first monk replied, "I carried her across the river and left her there. But it seems you are still carrying her." This story shows us the essence of detachment. It's not about avoiding life. It's about not carrying unnecessary weight in your mind. Why detachment matters. Think about your daily life. How many times have you lost peace because you were too attached? You sent a message, and when the reply didn't come quickly, you felt anxious. You worked hard, but when someone didn't praise you, you felt upset. You loved someone, but when they disappointed you, you felt crushed. All of this suffering comes from attachment, the belief that your happiness depends on external conditions. But here's the truth. Nothing outside you can guarantee lasting peace. People change. Situations change. Life is uncertain. If your peace depends on things staying exactly as you want, you will always suffer. Detachment frees you. It says, I can enjoy this fully, but I don't need to control it. If it changes, I remain calm. The psychology of detachment. Psychologists call this ability self-regulation. It means you can experience emotions without being ruled by them. When you're attached, your brain reacts like a seesaw, up when things go your way, down when they don't. But when you practice detachment, you steady the seesaw. You still feel joy and love, but you don't collapse when life shifts. Studies show that people who practice detachment, through mindfulness or perspective-taking, experience less stress, less anger, and more emotional stability. Detachment in relationships. One of the biggest fears people have is, if I detach, won't I lose love? The opposite is true. Attachment often creates unhealthy relationships, filled with control, jealousy, and expectation. But detachment creates freedom. You stop demanding that the other person be your source of happiness. Instead, you share happiness that already exists within you. Detachment doesn't kill love. It purifies it. It replaces control with respect, fear with trust. A simple practice, the observer's seat. Here's a practice you can try. Whenever you feel strong emotions, anger, jealousy, sadness, imagine yourself stepping back and sitting in the observer's seat. From this seat, you watch the emotion like a cloud passing by. You say, here is anger. Here is sadness. You don't push it away, but you don't get lost in it either. This little step of detachment gives you freedom. You realize, I am not my emotions. I am the one who observes them. Detachment in daily life. Let's take a few everyday examples. At work, you present an idea, and it gets rejected. Instead of tying your self-worth to approval, you detach. You think, the idea was rejected, not me. I remain the same. In traffic, someone cuts you off. Instead of reacting, you detach. You say, that's their behavior, not my problem. In family life, your child doesn't follow your advice. Instead of clinging, you detach. You guide with love but accept their independence. Each time you practice, your emotional balance grows stronger. The strength of stillness. Detachment gives you an incredible strength. Stillness in chaos. Imagine being like a mountain. Storms may rage around you, but you remain steady. People may come and go, praise or insult you, but you stay grounded. That's the power of detachment. When you no longer chase after control or cling to outcomes, you find a deep calm inside, a calm that no one can take away. A story. The Wise Farmer. There's a story of a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors said, "What bad luck?" The farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned with 3 wild horses. The neighbors said, "What good luck?" The farmer replied, "Maybe." The following day, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, fell, and broke his leg. Again the neighbors said, "What bad luck?" The farmer replied, "Maybe." A week later, soldiers came to recruit young men for war, but the farmer's son was spared because of his broken leg. The neighbors said, "What good luck?" The farmer replied, "Maybe." This story shows perfect detachment. The farmer did not cling to outcomes. He accepted life as it came, without labeling events as good or bad. That's true peace. Closing thoughts. Detachment is not about running away from life. It's about living fully without being enslaved by it. When you master detachment, anger loses its grip. Insults don't stick. Disappointments don't crush you. You enjoy life's gifts, but you don't cling to them for your happiness. So ask yourself, where am I clinging too tightly? What expectations am I holding that disturb my peace? Start loosening the grip. Practice gentle detachment. In the next chapter, we'll explore the power of perspective, how changing your view changes your emotions. You'll discover how a simple shift in perspective can turn anger into understanding and pain into wisdom. Chapter 6. The Power of Perspective. Let me start with a simple truth. Your life is not defined by what happens to you, but by how you see it. 2 people can go through the exact same event, yet one comes out stronger while the other feels broken. Why? The difference is perspective. Perspective is like the lens on a camera. If the lens is dirty, everything looks blurred and unpleasant. If the lens is clear, the same world suddenly looks beautiful. In this chapter, we're going to explore the power of perspective, how it shapes your emotions, how it can fuel or calm your anger, and how learning to shift perspective is one of the greatest tools to never be bothered by anyone. A simple story. The Shoe Salesman. There's a famous story of 2 shoe salesmen who went to a remote village. One salesman looked around and said, "This is hopeless. No one here wears shoes. There's no market." The other salesman looked around and said, "This is amazing. No one here wears shoes. The market is unlimited." Same situation. Same facts. 2 completely different perspectives. And those perspectives lead to 2 completely different emotions. One felt despair, the other felt excitement. This is the power of perspective. It doesn't just change your thoughts. It changes how you feel. Why perspective shapes anger. Think about the last time you got angry. Maybe someone insulted you. Your perspective was, "They disrespected me. I must defend myself." Naturally, you got upset. But what if your perspective was, "This insult says more about them than it does about me"? Suddenly, the heat of anger cools. Or let's say someone cuts you off in traffic. One perspective is, "That driver is a selfish idiot." Another perspective is, "Maybe they're rushing to the hospital with an emergency." The event is the same. But your perspective determines whether you burn with anger or stay calm. The science of reframing. Psychologists call this skill reframing. It means changing the way you look at a situation in order to change your emotional response. For example, instead of seeing failure as an end, you reframe it as feedback. Instead of seeing rejection as proof you're not good enough, you reframe it as redirection towards something better. Studies show that reframing reduces stress, increases resilience, and helps people stay emotionally balanced. In other words, perspective is not just philosophy, it's psychology. The story of the broken vase. A Zen master once had a beautiful vase. One day, a student accidentally broke it. Everyone in the monastery froze, expecting the master to get angry. The master looked at the pieces and said calmly, "Ah, it was already broken." What did he mean? He meant that everything in life is temporary. The vase was destined to break one day, whether today or 50 years from now. By shifting perspective, he avoided anger and instead accepted reality with peace. Perspective in relationships. Have you noticed how often conflict in relationships comes down to perspective? You think, "They don't listen to me." They think, "You don't understand me." When you only hold on to your perspective, the fire of conflict grows. But when you're willing to step into the other person's shoes, something shifts. Instead of, "They're attacking me," you see, "They're in pain and expressing it poorly." This doesn't mean you accept bad behavior, but it means you no longer take it so personally. And that alone can save you from endless anger. A practice: the 3-view technique. Here's a powerful exercise you can try whenever you feel bothered. Your view. What do you feel? What's your story of what happened? Their view. How might the other person be seeing the situation? Even if you don't agree, just imagine. The big view. If you zoomed out, like an eagle in the sky, how would this moment look in the bigger picture of your life? Often, the big view shows you that what seems huge now is actually very small compared to the journey of your life. This simple practice of shifting between views can instantly cool your anger and give you clarity. Perspective and gratitude. Another beautiful way to shift perspective is through gratitude. When you focus on what you don't have, life feels unfair. But when you look at what you do have, life feels abundant. Let's say your coworker criticizes you. One perspective is, "They don't value me." Another perspective is, "At least I have a job, and this criticism can make me better." Gratitude doesn't erase problems, but it balances perspective. It reminds you that not everything is bad, even in difficult times. The parable of the blinded men and the elephant. There's a famous Indian parable of blind men who touched different parts of an elephant. One touched the trunk and said, "This is a snake." Another touched the leg and said, "This is a tree." Another touched the ear and said, "This is a fan." They argued endlessly, each believing his perspective was the truth. But the elephant was bigger than any single perspective. This is life. You may think you see the whole picture, but often you're only seeing a piece. Remembering this humbles you and softens your anger. Practical shifts for everyday life. Let's make this practical. At work, instead of "my boss is unfair," try "my boss is stressed." How can I stay balanced? At home, instead of "my partner never listens," try "maybe they feel unheard too." How can I connect differently? On the street, instead of "people are rude," try "everyone is fighting their own battles." I won't add to the chaos. Each shift is small, but together they transform how you experience life. Closing thoughts. Perspective is like a pair of glasses. If you wear dark lenses, the world looks dark. If you wear clear lenses, the same world shines. You may not always control events, but you can always choose your lens. That choice can mean the difference between being constantly angry and living with deep peace. So the next time life challenges you, pause and ask, what other perspective can I see? What bigger picture am I missing? Because once you change your perspective, you don't just change how you think. You change how you feel. And that is real freedom. In the next chapter, we'll explore the role of patience. Why time heals what anger cannot. We'll see how slowing down, giving space, and letting time work its magic can save us from so many unnecessary battles. Chapter 7. The Role of Patience. Why time heals what anger cannot. Let's begin with a simple question. How many times have you said or done something in anger that you later regretted? Maybe you sent a message too quickly, raised your voice, or reacted harshly. At that moment, you felt justified. But later, with time, you realized, I didn't need to react like that. I could have waited. That's the power of patience. Patience is not weakness. It is strength in disguise. It's the ability to pause, to let emotions settle, and to allow time to do what anger never can. Bring clarity, healing, and peace. The nature of anger. Anger is like fire. It burns hot, but it burns fast. If you act while the fire is raging, you'll burn yourself and others. But if you wait, the fire cools. With patience, you see things differently. What once felt unbearable becomes manageable. What felt urgent no longer seems so important. This is why ancient wisdom traditions, from Buddhism to Stoicism, all emphasize patience. Because patience gives space for wisdom to enter. A story, The King's Ring. There is an old story of a king who asked his wise advisor for a phrase that would help him stay calm in every situation, in joy or in sorrow. The advisor gave him a ring with the words, "This too shall pass." Whenever the king was angry, he looked at the ring. Whenever he was overjoyed, he looked at the ring. And it reminded him, nothing lasts forever. This perspective gave him patience. He no longer reacted in extremes. He could wait, knowing that time changes everything. Why patience is hard? Let's be honest. In today's world, patience feels unnatural. We live in a fast food culture. Instant coffee, instant replies, instant gratification. Waiting feels like torture. That's why anger comes so easily. We want people to respond now. We want problems solved now. We want the world to bend to our timeline. But life doesn't work like that. People take time. Healing takes time. Understanding takes time. And the only way to deal with that reality is patience. The psychology of pausing. Psychologists talk about the pause principle. When you feel triggered, your emotional brain, the amygdala, wants to react immediately. But if you pause, even for a few seconds, your rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, steps in and gives perspective. That pause can mean the difference between exploding in anger and responding with calm. Think of patience as an emotional, cooling system. It doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you give them time to settle before you act. Patience in relationships. Relationships are the perfect training ground for patience. Maybe your partner snaps at you. Your instinct is to snap back. But if you pause, you might realize they're just tired. Instead of a fight, you offer compassion. Or maybe your child makes the same mistake again and again. Without patience, you become harsh. With patience, you guide them steadily, knowing growth takes time. Patience turns conflicts into opportunities for understanding. It creates space for love to survive anger. A practice, the 10-breath rule. Here's a simple tool you can use. When you feel anger rising, instead of reacting, take 10 slow breaths. Count each one. By the time you reach the 10th breath, your body has calmed down, your mind is clearer, and often the urge to react is softened. This practice is not about avoiding issues. It's about choosing the right time and state of mind to deal with them. Patience and perspective. Remember Chapter 6, where we spoke about perspective. Patience and perspective are like best friends. Patience allows perspective to arrive. Because in the heat of the moment, your view is narrow. But when you wait, you see the bigger picture. Think about how often you've been angry at something small, only to laugh about it later. That's perspective arriving with time. And patience is what allows that wisdom to appear. A story, the bamboo tree. In Asia, there's a type of bamboo that takes years just to sprout. For the first few years, you water it and see nothing. But underground, the roots are growing strong. Then, in one season, it shoots up rapidly, growing many feet tall. Life is like that bamboo. Results don't come instantly. Change takes time. If you lose patience, you'll quit before the growth happens. But if you trust the process, amazing things unfold. The link between patience and freedom. Here's the secret. Patience gives you freedom. When you're impatient, you're a prisoner of time. You're always restless, always irritated. But with patience, you relax. You let life unfold at its pace, not yours. And in that acceptance, anger loses its grip. You no longer feel the need to control every moment. You let time work its quiet magic. Closing thoughts. Patience is not just about waiting. It's about how you wait. Do you wait with anger, or do you wait with peace? The truth is, Most of what bothers you now will look small when you look back years later. If you can remember that, you'll save yourself from so much unnecessary pain. So the next time anger rises, remind yourself, this too shall pass. Take a breath. Give time a chance. Because time heals what anger cannot. In the next chapter, we'll dive into Chapter 8, Understanding Others, Why People Act the Way They Do. You'll discover how psychology, childhood experiences, and hidden struggles shape people's behavior, and why understanding this can free you from taking things personally. Chapter 8, Understanding Others, Why People Act the Way They Do. One of the biggest reasons we get angry or bothered by people is this. We expect them to behave the way we want, not the way they are. But here's the truth. People don't act randomly. Every word, every action, every reaction comes from something deeper inside them. Their psychology, their upbringing, their fears, their hidden wounds. All of it shapes how they behave. When you start to understand this, something amazing happens. Instead of being angry at people, you begin to see them with compassion. You realize, it's not about me. It's about them. And this shift frees you from so much unnecessary pain. People are mirrors of their stories. Every person you meet is carrying an invisible backpack filled with experiences. Childhood, family environment, traumas, beliefs, culture, all of these create the lens through which they see life. For example, a person who grew up in a loving home might be more trusting. Someone who was often criticized as a child may be defensive or overly aggressive. Someone who faced scarcity might be controlling or fearful about money. When you don't see the backpack, you judge them. But when you do, you understand, they are acting out of their story. A story. The angry customer. There's a story about a cashier who was yelled at by a rude customer. The customer insulted her for being too slow. Instead of arguing back, the cashier calmly said, "I hope your day gets better." Later, she told her coworker, "People who hurt others are usually hurting inside." She understood something powerful. People's behavior is a reflection of their inner state, not necessarily about the person standing in front of them. And when you see that, you stop taking insults personally. The psychology behind behavior. Let's explore a bit of psychology here. Projection. People project their own fears and insecurities onto others. If someone calls you selfish, it might actually be their own hidden selfishness. Defense mechanisms. When people feel threatened, they protect themselves by attacking, blaming, or withdrawing. Unmet needs. Human behavior is often driven by unmet needs, for love, respect, safety, or recognition. When you recognize these patterns, you see that most hurtful behavior is not truly about you. It's about the other person's inner world. Childhood shapes adulthood. Let's take this deeper. Much of adult behavior is rooted in childhood. A child who never felt heard may grow up shouting to be noticed. A child who was punished harshly may grow into someone controlling or fearful. A child who only received love when they achieved may become obsessed with success. So when someone acts rude or aggressive, instead of reacting with anger, you can think, this is a child who learned to survive in a certain way. This is not really about me. This doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior, but it helps you respond with clarity, not anger. The story of the teacher and the bully. A young boy was bullied in school. One day, his teacher sat with the bully and asked, "Why do you act this way?" The bully eventually broke down and said, "At home, my father beats me. I don't know where else to release my pain." The teacher realized, the boy wasn't truly angry at others. He was expressing the pain he carried inside. This is true for many people you meet. Anger, rudeness, arrogance. Often they are just masks covering fear, hurt, or insecurity. Compassion instead of reaction. Understanding others doesn't mean you let them walk all over you, but it means you stop feeding anger with anger. Instead of thinking, "Why are they attacking me?" you think, "What pain are they carrying that makes them act this way?" Compassion doesn't mean you agree. It means you see deeper. And that deeper seeing protects your peace. A practice. The "what else could be true" exercise. Here's a tool you can use when someone's behavior bothers you. When you feel insulted, pause and ask, what else could be true about why they acted this way? For example, they ignored your message. Maybe they're busy, not disrespectful. They snapped at you. Maybe they're stressed, not hateful. They didn't appreciate your effort. Maybe they were too distracted, not ungrateful. By asking this question, you open space for understanding instead of automatic anger. Everyday examples. At work, your colleague interrupts you. Instead of thinking, they don't respect me, think, maybe they're insecure and trying to prove themselves. At home, your teenager slams the door. Instead of, they hate me, think, they're struggling with emotions they can't handle. With strangers, someone cuts in line. Instead of, they're arrogant, think, maybe they're in a hurry for a reason I don't know. This doesn't excuse bad manners, but it keeps you calm, and that's what matters. Why this frees you. Here's the magic. When you understand others, you stop taking things personally. You realize their anger is about them, not me. Their rudeness is their wound showing. Their behavior is their story, not my identity. This frees you. You no longer carry their negativity inside you. You let them keep their storm, while you remain in your calm. A closing story. The bus ride. A man once got on a crowded bus with his children, who were running wild and disturbing everyone. The passengers grew angry. Finally, one person shouted, "Can't you control your kids?" The man looked up with tears in his eyes and said, "I'm sorry. We just came from the hospital. Their mother passed away an hour ago. I don't know what to do." Suddenly, the passenger's perspective shifted from anger to compassion. This story teaches us, we never know what battles others are fighting. That's why understanding is more powerful than anger. Closing thoughts. When you truly understand others, you see beyond the mask. You see the wounded child, the hidden fear, the unmet need. And that vision softens your anger. It doesn't mean you let people treat you badly. It means you stop letting their behavior poison your peace. So the next time someone bothers you, ask yourself, what story are they carrying? What pain lies behind their words? Because when you understand, you are free. In the next chapter, we'll explore Chapter 9, the confidence loop, practicing calm until it becomes natural. You'll learn how calmness is like a muscle, and how practicing it daily makes it your natural state instead of anger. Chapter 9, the confidence loop, practicing calm until it becomes natural. Have you ever noticed that some people seem calm no matter what happens? They don't get flustered, they don't get defensive, and they seem almost untouchable. That calmness is not magic. It's a skill, a habit, that has been practiced over time. And the good news is, you can develop it too. In this chapter, we'll explore what I like to call the confidence loop, a cycle of calmness, awareness, and action that, when practiced consistently, makes being unbothered your natural state. Calmness is a muscle. Think of calmness like a physical muscle. If you never exercise, it stays weak. When stress, anger, or criticism comes, your calm muscle can't hold up. You snap, you react, you feel drained. But if you train it, even a little every day, it grows stronger. And over time, staying calm becomes your default. Every time you practice restraint, every time you pause before reacting, every time you respond with thoughtfulness instead of impulse, you're exercising that muscle. The science of practice. Neuroscience shows that the brain is incredibly adaptable. When you consciously practice calmness, your brain rewires itself. New neural pathways are created that make it easier to respond calmly in the future. It's called neuroplasticity. Simply put, you can train your brain to react differently, no matter what your past experiences were. In other words, calmness is not a personality trait. It's a habit you build, just like learning to ride a bike or play an instrument. A story. The Master and the Student. There was a young student who asked a meditation master, "How do I stop getting angry?" The master took him to a garden and planted a tree. "Every day, water it," the master said. "But also remove the weeds." The student didn't understand. Years later, he realized the meaning. Watering the tree is practicing calmness. Removing the weeds is letting go of anger and attachment. Over time, the tree grew strong and steady, just like his inner peace. The confidence loop explained. The confidence loop has 3 steps. Awareness. Notice your triggers and emotions before they control you. Pause. Take a breath, step back, and give yourself space to choose your response. Action. Respond calmly and thoughtfully, rather than react impulsively. Here's the magic. Every time you complete the loop, you reinforce calmness. It becomes easier the next time. And soon, it turns into a natural habit. Practicing awareness. Awareness is the first step. You can't change what you don't notice. Pay attention to your body. Tension, rapid heartbeat, clenched fists. These are signs anger is rising. Notice your thoughts. Are you blaming, judging, or catastrophizing? Catch yourself before reacting. Ask, do I need to respond now, or can I pause? Even a few seconds of awareness can prevent a full-blown emotional explosion. The power of the pause. The pause is the second step. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Step back mentally or physically. This simple pause gives your rational mind a chance to take control. It's like hitting the reset button. You stop being a puppet to your emotions and start being the conductor of your inner orchestra. Responding with calm action. The third step is action. But notice the difference. It's not reaction. Reaction is impulsive. It comes from ego, fear, or anger. Action is deliberate. It comes from awareness, perspective, and calmness. For example, someone criticizes your work. Reaction. Shout back or feel crushed. Calm action. Listen, evaluate whether the criticism has merit, respond politely, or choose not to respond at all. This measured approach builds your reputation, your inner peace, and your confidence. Repetition creates habit. The confidence loop works because of repetition. Every time you practice awareness, pause, and calm action, you strengthen your calmness muscle. Think of it like lifting weights. The first few reps are hard. You may fail, stumble, or lose control. But over time, your strength increases, and calmness becomes your natural state. Consistency matters more than perfection. Missing a day doesn't undo progress, but giving up entirely does. A practical daily exercise. Here's a simple exercise to practice the confidence loop every day. Morning awareness. Spend 5 minutes reflecting on your triggers. Think of situations that usually make you angry or stressed. Visualize calm response. Imagine those situations and see yourself responding calmly. Throughout the day, when a trigger appears, use the 3 steps: awareness, pause, action. Evening reflection. Before bed, review moments where you reacted well and where you slipped. Celebrate progress, and plan to improve tomorrow. Over weeks, this exercise rewires your brain. Calmness stops being something you try to force and becomes who you are. A story. The calm driver. A man was stuck in traffic, feeling frustration building. Usually, he would honk, yell, and feel angry. But today, he remembered his confidence loop. He paused, breathed, and asked himself, will this matter in 5 minutes? 5 hours? 5 days? By the time he reached his destination, he realized he had barely felt irritation. He smiled, feeling free and in control. That small practice repeated daily transformed his relationship with life's little annoyances. Closing thoughts. Calmness is not a one-time achievement. It's a habit, a muscle, a loop you practice every day. The confidence loop, awareness, pause, action, is simple but powerful. It allows you to respond to life's challenges with poise instead of anger. Remember, every time you practice calm, you reinforce it. Every time you pause before reacting, you grow stronger. And soon, staying unbothered becomes your natural state, not just a goal. In the next chapter, we'll explore Chapter 10, Mastering Persuasion, using calm and understanding to influence without anger. You'll learn how calmness not only protects your peace but also empowers you to guide situations skillfully. Chapter 10, Mastering Persuasion, using calm and understanding to influence without anger. Have you ever noticed that people who shout, argue, or get angry often fail to get what they want, while those who stay calm seem to influence others effortlessly? This is the secret of persuasion without anger. When you respond with calm and understanding, you protect your peace and gain power, not through force or intimidation, but through clarity, empathy, and presence. In this chapter, we'll explore how calmness can become your greatest persuasive tool, why understanding others is key, and practical ways to influence without losing control. Why anger fails in persuasion. Most people think that showing strong emotion, especially anger, gives them authority. They raise their voice, slam their hand on the table, or argue aggressively, hoping to bend others to their will. But here's the truth: anger often backfires. It triggers defensiveness in others. It clouds judgment. It makes your message about your emotion, not your point. Psychologists call this the reactance effect. When people feel threatened, they resist even more. The harder you push while angry, the more they pull away. Calmness, on the other hand, invites cooperation. It gives your words weight because they are not drowned out by emotion. The story of the wise negotiator. There's a story about a wise negotiator who was sent to settle a land dispute between two villages. One village was furious, shouting and threatening. The other village was silent, tense, and angry. Instead of raising his voice, the negotiator calmly listened to both sides, asked thoughtful questions, and summarized their concerns. Within hours, the villages reached an agreement. Why did it work? Because calmness diffuses anger. Understanding builds trust. And trust creates influence. The psychology of influence. Influence is not about manipulation. It's about connection. People are persuaded when they feel heard, their feelings and perspective are acknowledged. Understood. Someone genuinely grasps their position. Respected. They are treated with dignity, not judged or attacked. When you combine calmness with these elements, persuasion happens naturally. You don't need to push, yell, or coerce. People lean in, not away. The calm persuader's tools. Here's how you can use calmness to guide situations. 1. Listen more than you speak. When people feel truly heard, they become open. Pause, ask questions, and listen without interrupting. The goal is understanding, not preparing your response. 2. Mirror and reflect. Reflect their feelings and concerns. I hear that you're frustrated about the delay. It makes sense why you'd feel that way. This shows empathy and lowers resistance. 3. Ask questions instead of giving orders. Questions invite participation. How do you think we can solve this problem together? People feel ownership of solutions and are more likely to agree. 4. Keep your voice steady. Tone is everything. Even if you disagree, a calm voice signals control, confidence, and authority. People respect composure far more than anger. 5. Focus on interests, not positions. Anger makes people defensive about positions. I want it my way. Calmness allows exploration of underlying interests. What do you truly need? This opens the door to compromise and collaboration. A story. The father and the teenager. A father wanted his teenager to focus on studies instead of excessive video games. At first, he yelled, demanded, and argued. The teenager shut down. Nothing worked. Then the father tried calm persuasion. He asked, I notice you spend a lot of time gaming. What do you enjoy most about it? The teenager explained, and they explored solutions together, balancing study and gaming. The result? The teenager felt heard, respected, and motivated. Calm persuasion worked far better than anger. How calmness protects your peace. Here's another benefit. Persuasion without anger protects you emotionally. When you respond calmly, you avoid the stress of reactive behavior. Keep your mind clear to make better decisions. Maintain control over your energy and emotions. In other words, calmness gives you emotional power, which is far more persuasive than any loud argument. Practical exercise. The 3-minute pause. Next time you need to influence someone, pause for 3 seconds before speaking. Take a deep breath and center yourself. Ask yourself, what is the best way to guide this conversation without triggering defensiveness? This small pause creates a powerful shift. Your body relaxes, your voice steadies, and your words carry authority. The role of empathy. Empathy is the bridge between calmness and influence. When people feel understood, they lower their defenses. They are more willing to listen, negotiate, and cooperate. Empathy does not mean agreeing blindly. It means recognizing emotions and needs without letting them control you. That's the difference between being reactive and being persuasive. A story. The boss who listened. A manager noticed conflict between two team members. Instead of blaming or taking sides, she calmly met with each individually, asked them to explain their concerns, and then facilitated a discussion focused on solutions. By the end, both employees felt understood and motivated to collaborate. Calmness and understanding made her influence natural and lasting. No force, no anger, no power struggles. Closing thoughts. Mastering persuasion without anger is not about being passive. It's about choosing your energy wisely. Calmness gives you clarity, understanding gives you connection, and together they create influence. When you combine these skills with awareness of triggers, perspective, and patience, everything you've learned in earlier chapters, you unlock a life where you are rarely angry, rarely bothered, and yet highly effective in guiding people and situations. The secret is simple but powerful. Calmness plus understanding equals influence. In the next chapter, we'll explore Chapter 11, Building Lasting Relationships, how emotional control and understanding strengthen bonds. You'll discover how these skills not only keep you unbothered but also help you build deeper, more meaningful connections with others. Chapter 11, Building Lasting Relationships, how emotional control and understanding strengthen bonds. Have you ever noticed how some people attract lasting, deep relationships effortlessly, while others struggle despite good intentions? The difference is not luck. It's emotional mastery. It's the ability to remain calm, understand others, and communicate in a way that strengthens connection rather than erodes it. In this chapter, we'll explore how the skills we've been learning, calmness, patience, perspective, and understanding others, are the foundation of strong, lasting relationships. Emotional control builds trust. Think about this. When someone loses their temper frequently, how do you feel around them? Do you feel safe sharing your thoughts? Do you feel heard? Or do you feel cautious, defensive, or even anxious? Now imagine someone who stays calm under pressure. Someone who listens before responding. Someone who handles disagreements without escalating. Which person would you trust more? The answer is obvious. Emotional control signals reliability. People naturally gravitate toward those who remain composed because they create emotional safety. And trust is the cornerstone of every lasting relationship. Understanding others strengthens bonds. It's one thing to control your own emotions. It's another to understand the emotions of others. When you can step into someone else's shoes, you see why they act the way they do. Their fears, their struggles, their desires. And when you respond with empathy, relationships flourish. For example, your partner may get frustrated after a long day. Instead of snapping back, you recognize their exhaustion and offer support. A friend might cancel plans last minute. Instead of feeling insulted, you consider that something important might have come up. Small shifts in perspective and response create deep, lasting connections because they show you care without reacting impulsively. A story. The couple who learned patience. There was a couple who constantly argued about household chores. Every small disagreement escalated into full-blown fights. They decided to try something different. Instead of reacting with anger, they paused, listened, and tried to understand the other's point of view. Over time, arguments became calm discussions. Years later, their friends noticed their relationship was unusually strong. The secret wasn't perfection. It was patience, understanding, and emotional control. The psychology of connection. Human beings are wired for connection. Our brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, when we feel safe, heard, and understood. When you control your emotions and respond with empathy, oxytocin flows. Trust increases. Cooperation becomes easier. Conversely, anger, criticism, or impatience triggers cortisol, the stress hormone, which pushes people away and damages bonds over time. In other words, emotional mastery is literally biological. It makes you magnetic, respected, and trusted. Communicating with calm influence. Building lasting relationships is not just about avoiding anger. It's about communicating effectively. Here are some tools. 1. Speak from your perspective. Instead of accusing, use I statements. I feel concerned when, instead of you always. This reduces defensiveness and opens dialogue. 2. Validate emotions. Acknowledging someone's feelings doesn't mean agreeing, it means recognizing their experience. I see that you're frustrated. I understand why you feel that way. 3. Listen more than you speak. True connection requires active listening. Reflect what the other person says, summarize their points, and avoid interrupting. 4. Respond, don't react. Pause before responding, especially when emotions run high. A calm response communicates respect and strengthens trust. A story. The team leader. A manager noticed tension in their team after a big project failed. Instead of blaming or scolding, the manager calmly invited each member to share their perspective. By listening and validating feelings, the manager restored trust, reduced resentment, and motivated the team to work even harder on the next project. Calm emotional control and understanding turned potential conflict into stronger bonds. Boundaries are part of healthy relationships. Emotional mastery doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Healthy relationships require boundaries. Calmly assert your limits. I understand your frustration, but I won't accept yelling. Maintain respect for yourself and others. Boundaries combined with empathy create safe, lasting relationships. People respect those who are firm yet composed, who care but don't overreact. This combination is magnetic and stabilizing. The role of forgiveness. Holding grudges or resentment erodes relationships over time. Forgiveness is an act of emotional mastery. Forgive not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness allows relationships to grow rather than stagnate in anger. Even small acts of forgiveness, letting go of minor slights, overlooking small mistakes, accumulate over time and create deep, lasting bonds. Practice exercise. The empathy map. Here's a simple practice for building stronger relationships. Think of someone you interact with regularly. List what they might be feeling or struggling with. List what they might need or want from you. Adjust your next interaction based on this understanding. This practice shifts your mind from judgment to empathy and strengthens connection naturally. Closing thoughts. Strong, lasting relationships are built on emotional control, understanding, and empathy. When you master these skills, you remain calm even in conflict. You respond with compassion instead of anger. You create trust, safety, and connection. The result? Deeper, more meaningful relationships that endure life's challenges. Remember, the goal is not perfection. It's practice. Every calm conversation, every act of understanding, every moment of patience reinforces your ability to connect without losing peace. In the next chapter, we'll explore Chapter 12, Letting Go of Grudges, How Forgiveness Frees You from Emotional Prison. You'll discover why letting go is not just for others, but for your own peace and freedom. Chapter 12, Letting Go of Grudges, How Forgiveness Frees You from Emotional Prison. Have you ever held onto anger against someone for days, months, or even years? That simmering resentment might feel like justice, but in truth, it is a prison you've built for yourself. Holding grudges keeps your mind busy with the past, your body tense with stress, and your emotions chained to someone else's actions. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is the key that unlocks that prison. And here's the beautiful part. Forgiving doesn't mean excusing, it means freeing yourself. In this chapter, we'll explore why grudges weigh you down, the psychology behind holding onto anger, and how forgiveness can liberate your mind, body, and spirit. The weight of grudges. When you hold a grudge, it's not the other person who suffers, it's you. Your mind constantly replays the event. Your heart stores tension, stress, and resentment. Your energy is tied to someone else's mistake. Studies in psychology show that chronic anger and resentment are linked to health issues like high blood pressure, weakened immunity, and anxiety. In essence, holding grudges slowly erodes your peace and your life. Think of it like carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Every time you think about the person who hurt you, you add another stone. Forgiveness is setting that backpack down. A story. The farmer and the hatred. There's a story of a farmer whose neighbor constantly stole from him. For years, the farmer carried hatred in his heart. One day, an old wise man visited and asked, "Why do you carry this burden?" The farmer replied, "Because he wronged me." The wise man said, "Every day you carry hatred, who suffers most?" The farmer thought and realized it was himself, not the neighbor. That night, he decided to let go. Over time, he felt lighter, calmer, and happier, not because the neighbor changed, but because he freed himself from anger. Forgiveness is for you, not them. This is a critical insight. Forgiveness is not about making the other person right. It's about reclaiming your peace. When you forgive, you say, "I will not let this control me anymore. I am choosing freedom over resentment. I refuse to let someone else's mistakes define my happiness." You don't need an apology, acknowledgement, or change from them. Your forgiveness is independent of their actions. It is a gift you give yourself. The psychology behind holding grudges. Why do we cling to resentment? Ego. Holding on to anger makes you feel justified or superior. Control. Anger makes us feel like we have power over someone who hurt us. Fear. Letting go can feel like losing protection, as if releasing anger makes you vulnerable. Ironically, all of these reasons are illusions. Holding a grudge does not punish the other person, it punishes you. And true power comes from letting go, not clinging. A story. The grudge between friends. Two friends had a falling out over a business deal. One held resentment for years, replaying every word and every perceived slight. He became bitter, avoided social events, and struggled to trust others. The other friend, however, forgave silently, focused on his own growth, and let the relationship fade naturally. Over time, he noticed something remarkable. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace, even though the conflict was never formally resolved. Forgiveness didn't change the past, but it changed the present. How to begin letting go. Forgiveness doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a practice. Here's how to start. 1. Acknowledge the pain. Don't pretend the hurt didn't happen. Recognize what you feel and why. Name the emotions: anger, sadness, betrayal. 2. Understand their story. People act from their own wounds, fears, and limitations. Understanding doesn't excuse their behavior, but it reduces its emotional grip on you. 3. Choose to release. Say to yourself, "I am choosing to release this anger for my own peace." You don't need to share it with the other person. This is an internal decision. 4. Replace anger with compassion. Even a small shift, wishing them well silently or imagining their struggles, weakens resentment and strengthens your freedom. 5. Practice daily. Letting go is not a one-time event. Thoughts will return. Each time, remind yourself, "I choose peace over this grudge." Forgiveness and self-empowerment. Holding grudges can feel like control, but it's actually disempowering. Your emotional energy is trapped in the past, leaving you less capable of growth and happiness. Forgiveness, however, is a radical act of empowerment. By releasing resentment, you regain control over your mind and emotions. You free up energy to focus on what matters. You strengthen your resilience and inner peace. It's not passive. It's active self-mastery. A story. The angry driver. A man was cut off in traffic and felt a surge of rage. Normally, he would have yelled or fumed the entire drive. But that day, he practiced forgiveness silently. "Maybe they are in a rush. Maybe they didn't see me. I will not let this ruin my day." By the time he arrived at his destination, his anger had melted. He felt lighter, calmer, and in control. Forgiveness doesn't just apply to big life events. It works in small daily moments too. The science of letting go. Research in psychology shows that forgiveness reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, improves mood, and even strengthens the immune system. In other words, Forgiveness is not just a moral choice, it's a health choice. Holding on to anger literally harms your body. Letting go heals it. Closing thoughts. Letting go of grudges is one of the most powerful skills you can develop on the journey to never getting angry or bothered. Remember these key points. Forgiveness is for your peace, not theirs. Understanding their story reduces the emotional grip of anger. Releasing resentment strengthens emotional control, health, and relationships. Practice daily, for both big and small grievances. The truth is, freedom begins the moment you let go. When you release the chains of resentment, you reclaim your mind, your heart, and your life. In the next chapter, we'll explore Chapter 13, Mindful Presence. How living in the moment shields you from anger and resentment. You'll learn how mindfulness helps you experience life fully without letting external events disturb your inner peace. Chapter 13, Mindful Presence. How living in the moment shields you from anger and resentment. Have you ever noticed how anger usually comes from thinking about the past or worrying about the future? Someone said something hurtful yesterday, or you fear they might upset you tomorrow. Rarely does anger exist fully in the present moment. This is where mindful presence comes in, the practice of fully experiencing the now. When you master mindfulness, you protect yourself from anger, resentment, and emotional reactivity. You learn to respond instead of react, to live fully without carrying unnecessary emotional baggage. Why mindfulness works. Mindfulness is the act of observing your thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment. It's like stepping back and watching life instead of being swept away by it. Here's why it works against anger. Anger thrives in rumination, replaying events in your mind. Mindfulness stops that loop. Mindfulness allows you to pause, creating space between stimulus and response. By focusing on the present, you stop projecting the past onto the present or imagining future threats. In short, mindfulness transforms your awareness, and awareness transforms your life. A story: The Monk and the Angry Villager. There's a story of a villager who came to a monk, furious that his neighbor had insulted him. "I cannot forgive him," he shouted. The monk asked him to follow him to a quiet river. "Sit here and watch the water," he said. Hours passed. The villager noticed leaves floating, ripples forming, and the water flowing freely. The monk said, "Notice how the river doesn't hold the past leaf or fear the next one. It flows freely. Be like the river. Let your anger pass." By focusing on the present, the simple flow of life, the villager's anger began to dissolve. Mindfulness in everyday life. Mindfulness doesn't require sitting in silence for hours. You can practice it in small ways. While eating, notice the texture, taste, and smell of your food. While walking, feel your feet touching the ground, notice your surroundings without judgment. While talking, listen fully to the other person without planning your response. The more you practice being fully present, the less reactive you become. You notice emotions rising but don't have to act on them immediately. The science behind mindfulness. Neuroscience shows that mindfulness strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, self-control, and emotional regulation. At the same time, it reduces overactivity in the amygdala, the part that triggers fear, anger, and fight-or-flight responses. In simple terms, mindfulness rewires your brain for calmness, focus, and emotional resilience. A daily mindfulness exercise. Here's a simple exercise to cultivate mindful presence. Set aside 5 minutes each day. Sit quietly and focus on your breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Observe thoughts as they arise, but don't follow them. Imagine them as clouds passing in the sky. Return to your breath each time your mind wanders. Over time, this strengthens your ability to stay present, even in stressful or anger-inducing situations. Responding instead of reacting. Mindfulness allows you to notice your triggers without being consumed by them. For example, someone criticizes you at work. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause, observe your rising emotions, and respond thoughtfully. A friend cancels plans last minute. Instead of getting upset, you acknowledge your disappointment and let it go. This pause, this space created by mindfulness, is where freedom from anger begins. A story: The calm driver. A man used to rage in traffic, honking and shouting. He decided to practice mindful presence. While driving, he focused on his breathing and observed the traffic without judgment. Over weeks, he noticed a remarkable change. Traffic no longer triggered anger. He felt calm, alert, and even found small joys: a bird on the roadside, the sunlight on buildings, the sound of rain. Mindfulness transformed daily life from a battlefield into a flowing, peaceful experience. Mindfulness and forgiveness. Mindfulness and forgiveness work hand in hand. When you are present, you notice grudges and resentment arising. You recognize they are thoughts, not facts. You can choose to release them instead of letting them control your emotions. The combination of letting go and staying present creates a powerful shield against anger. Mindfulness in relationships. Being fully present strengthens relationships. Listening without distraction shows respect and builds trust. Not reacting impulsively prevents conflicts from escalating. Observing emotions allows you to respond with empathy instead of judgment. By practicing mindful presence, you create deeper, more meaningful connections while remaining unbothered. A practice. Mindful pause in conflict. When you feel anger rising in a conversation, pause and breathe deeply. Even 3 slow breaths make a difference. Notice your bodily sensations: tight jaw, clenched fists, racing heart. Observe your thoughts. Recognize that anger is just a passing emotion. Respond calmly, with understanding and clarity. Over time, this mindful pause becomes automatic, reducing unnecessary conflict and emotional pain. Closing thoughts. Mindfulness is the ultimate tool for protecting your peace. By living in the moment, you free yourself from past grudges. You stop worrying about future conflicts. You respond to life's challenges with calm, clarity, and empathy. Being present is not just a skill, it is a way of life. It transforms ordinary moments into peaceful, meaningful experiences. And in this state, anger loses its power over you. In the next chapter, we'll explore Chapter 14, Developing Emotional Resilience, how to bounce back stronger from every challenge. You'll learn how to use all the skills you've developed so far to become unshakable in the face of life's difficulties. Chapter 14, Developing Emotional Resilience, how to bounce back stronger from every challenge. Life is unpredictable. People disappoint us. Plans fail. Circumstances shift. And despite our best efforts, challenges always appear. The difference between those who remain calm, happy, and unbothered and those who constantly struggle lies in emotional resilience, the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt, and maintain inner peace. In this chapter, we'll explore how you can develop emotional resilience by using the skills you've learned so far: calmness, perspective, understanding others, mindfulness, and forgiveness. What emotional resilience really means. Resilience isn't about never feeling pain or anger. It's not about pretending everything is fine. Instead, it's about feeling the emotion fully without letting it control you, recovering quickly from stress, disappointment, or conflict, learning and growing from challenges rather than being crushed by them. Think of a tree in a storm. The wind bends its branches, but the roots hold firm. Emotional resilience is your root, unshakable, even in life's fiercest storms. The psychology behind resilience. Psychologists have identified key traits in resilient people. Self-awareness. They recognize their emotions and triggers without being dominated by them. Perspective. They see challenges as temporary and often as opportunities to learn. Adaptability. They can adjust their approach when circumstances change. Optimism. They maintain hope and focus on solutions rather than dwelling on problems. All of these traits can be developed and strengthened. Resilience is a skill, not an innate talent. A story. The entrepreneur who failed. There was an entrepreneur who lost a major client and faced financial struggles. Most people in his position would have spiraled into anger, blame, and despair. Instead, he paused, reflected, and applied emotional resilience. He analyzed what went wrong without self-criticism, forgave himself for mistakes, and approached new clients calmly and confidently. Within months, he rebuilt his business stronger than before. The secret? He didn't suppress emotion. He used calmness, perspective, and understanding to bounce back. Using calmness to build resilience. Every resilient person has one thing in common: the ability to stay calm under pressure. Calmness allows you to make better decisions instead of reacting impulsively. Protect your energy from being consumed by stress or anger. Approach problems with clarity instead of panic. The confidence loop you learned earlier is essential here. Awareness, pause, and action are the building blocks of emotional resilience. Every time you practice them, you strengthen your ability to recover from setbacks. Perspective. Seeing challenges differently. Resilient people don't ignore problems. They reframe them. Instead of thinking, "This is terrible, I can't handle it," they think, "This is a challenge I can learn from. What can I control, and what can I release?" Perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities. It reduces unnecessary anger, fear, and frustration. Understanding others as part of resilience. Sometimes, challenges involve other people. Conflicts, misunderstandings, or betrayal. Resilient people understand that others act from their own story, limitations, and fears. Most actions are not personal attacks. Compassion and empathy protect them from unnecessary anger. By seeing the world through this lens, you prevent interpersonal challenges from destabilizing your peace. Mindfulness and resilience. Mindfulness is another key tool. It allows you to stay grounded in the present, even during chaos. Observe emotions rising without being overwhelmed. Respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. A mindful person in a crisis is like a calm anchor in a storm, steady, clear, and capable of effective action. Forgiveness strengthens your inner core. Resilience is strengthened when you let go of grudges, past failures, and resentment. Holding on to anger or blame drains your emotional energy. Forgiveness frees that energy, leaving space to face challenges with strength and clarity. Remember, forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or condoning. It means choosing peace over resentment, which is essential for bouncing back. A story: the athlete who lost. An athlete trained for months for a competition but lost due to unfair judging. Initially, she was furious and discouraged. But she applied resilience. She acknowledged her disappointment, analyzed what she could control, her preparation, mindset, and effort, forgave the situation, and trained for the next event with renewed energy. The following year, she won. Resilience allowed her to transform loss into growth. Practical steps to build emotional resilience. Here are some exercises to strengthen resilience daily. Daily reflection. Spend 5 minutes reviewing challenges of the day. Ask, what did I learn? What can I control? What should I release? Mindful breathing. Pause during stressful moments and take deep, conscious breaths to reset your nervous system. Gratitude practice. Focus on what's working in your life. This shifts perspective from scarcity to abundance. Reframe setbacks. When difficulties arise, ask, what is this teaching me? How can I grow from it? Forgiveness ritual. Let go of small or large resentments, silently releasing emotional weight each day. Over time, these practices strengthen your roots, making you unshakable in the face of life's storms. Closing thoughts. Emotional resilience is the culmination of everything we've learned so far. Calmness, perspective, understanding, mindfulness, and forgiveness. It allows you to face challenges without being consumed by anger or frustration. It strengthens your inner peace, protecting you from life's inevitable difficulties. It transforms setbacks into opportunities for growth and learning. Think of yourself as a tree in a storm. The winds of life may bend your branches, but your roots, your emotional resilience, hold firm. With consistent practice, you become unshakable, calm, and capable of navigating any challenge with clarity and strength. In the next chapter, we'll explore Chapter 15, The Calm Life, integrating all skills to live peacefully and unbothered. You'll see how to combine everything you've learned into a natural, peaceful way of living. Chapter 15, The Calm Life, integrating all skills to live peacefully and unbothered. Congratulations! You've traveled through a journey of self-mastery, understanding, and inner peace. From exploring the roots of anger to mastering emotional resilience, from mindfulness to forgiveness, you now hold the tools to live a life largely unbothered by external chaos. But knowledge alone is not enough. The final step is integration, weaving all these skills together into a way of life, a natural state of calm that persists regardless of circumstances. This chapter will guide you in doing just that. Calmness as your foundation. Every skill you've learned, emotional awareness, the confidence loop, understanding others, mindfulness, forgiveness, and resilience, rests upon the foundation of calmness. Calmness is not passive. It is active, deliberate, and powerful. It allows you to observe your emotions without being consumed. Make thoughtful decisions instead of reacting impulsively. Approach relationships and challenges with clarity and empathy. Think of calmness as the soil in which all other skills grow. Without it, growth is difficult. With it, your inner peace flourishes. Integrating awareness and perspective. Awareness is your compass. Perspective is your map. Together, they guide you through life's challenges without losing balance. Awareness. Notice your triggers, emotions, and thoughts. Pause before reacting. Perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 minutes, 5 days, or 5 years? By combining awareness with perspective, you create a mental buffer. You respond with wisdom, not emotion. You choose peace over chaos. Understanding and empathy in daily life. The skills of understanding others and practicing empathy extend beyond conflict resolution. They enhance every relationship. Listen fully without judgment. Reflect emotions back with compassion. Respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. When empathy becomes a natural habit, relationships deepen effortlessly. You no longer need to control others or feel threatened by their behavior. You understand that everyone is navigating their own challenges, just like you. Mindfulness as a daily anchor. Mindfulness is the anchor that keeps you grounded in the present moment. By practicing mindfulness daily, you prevent old grievances from resurfacing, reduce stress and unnecessary anger, experience life fully, savoring simple moments that often go unnoticed. It's not just about meditation. It's about being fully present in everything you do, eating, walking, working, or interacting with others. Presence transforms mundane moments into sources of peace. Forgiveness and freedom. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks emotional freedom. By releasing grudges, big or small, you free yourself from unnecessary weight. Forgive for your own peace, not for others. Let go of resentment to reclaim energy and clarity. Integrate forgiveness into your daily reflections and interactions. When forgiveness becomes a habit, life flows more easily. People and events no longer have the power to disturb your calm. Resilience as your superpower. Life will always present challenges. Emotional resilience allows you to face them without losing equilibrium. Use calmness to make thoughtful decisions. Use perspective to see challenges as opportunities. Use mindfulness to stay present, even under stress. Use forgiveness to release setbacks and resentment. Resilience is not about avoiding difficulties. It's about facing them with a steady heart and learning from every experience. A story. The Calm Life in Action. There's a story of a teacher in a busy school. Every day, he faced difficult students, demanding parents, and administrative pressures. Many colleagues were stressed, angry, or burnt out. This teacher, however, practiced the calm life. He noticed his triggers, paused before reacting, stayed present with his students, understood their struggles, and forgave small slights daily. Over time, something remarkable happened. His classrooms became peaceful, his relationships strong, and his energy high. He was unbothered by chaos because calmness had become his default state. He wasn't perfect, but his practice created a life of ease and fulfillment. Daily practices to maintain the calm life. Morning reflection. Begin each day reviewing your intentions. Remind yourself, I choose calmness, understanding, and presence today. Pause and breathe. Use micropauses throughout the day when stress or irritation arises. Mindful awareness. Engage fully in tasks and interactions. Notice sensations, thoughts, and emotions without judgment. Empathetic interaction. Practice understanding and compassion in every conversation. Evening reflection. Review the day, celebrate moments of calm, and note areas to improve. Gratitude practice. Focus on positives and small blessings. Gratitude strengthens perspective and reduces reactivity. These practices, consistently applied, integrate all the skills you've learned into daily life. The long-term transformation. When all these practices become habitual, you experience fewer emotional eruptions. You rarely get angry or bothered by trivial matters. Stronger relationships. People trust and respect you naturally. Clarity and focus. Your mind is less cluttered by negative emotions. Inner peace. You feel grounded and centered, even in chaos. The calm life is not about perfection. It's about progress, awareness, and choice. Every day you practice, every moment you pause, you reinforce the habit of peace. Closing thoughts. The calm life is not a distant goal. It's a practice that starts here and now. By integrating calmness, perspective, mindfulness, understanding, forgiveness, and resilience, you create a life where anger loses its power, challenges become manageable, relationships grow stronger, peace becomes your default state. Remember, life will always test you. But with these tools, you remain unshaken, grounded, and free. As you step forward, carry this truth. Calmness is not a destination, it's a way of living. Practice it, nurture it, and let it transform every moment of your life. You are now equipped to live unbothered, unshaken, and fully present, truly mastering the calm life. Conclusion. Embracing the calm life. You've journeyed through understanding anger, mastering emotional control, and learning the tools that allow you to live unbothered. You've explored the root causes of emotional reactions, the illusions of control, the triggers of anger, and how ego fuels our frustrations. You've practiced detachment, perspective, empathy, mindfulness, forgiveness, and resilience. All of these skills share a common thread. They return power to you. No one can take your peace unless you give it away. No one can disturb your mind unless you allow it. And no circumstance can dictate your happiness if you master your inner world. The calm life is not about perfection. It is about practice, patience, and persistence. You will still feel irritation, disappointment, or frustration. That is human. But now, you have the tools to notice it, pause, and choose your response wisely. You can let go of grudges, act with understanding, and respond with calm influence instead of reactive anger. Imagine life as a river. Challenges, conflicts, and frustrations are the currents and ripples. You are the riverbed, steady, grounded, and unshaken. The currents may swirl and crash, but your foundation holds firm. That is the gift of a calm mind. Carry these lessons with you daily. Awareness. Know your triggers and responses. Perspective. See beyond the immediate irritation. Empathy. Understand others without losing yourself. Mindfulness. Live in the present and stop reliving the past or fearing the future. Forgiveness. Release the weight of grudges and resentment. Resilience. Bounce back stronger from every challenge. When you integrate these principles into your life, you become unshaken by negativity, unbothered by criticism, and free to experience joy, connection, and clarity. This is more than a strategy to avoid anger. It is a path to freedom. It is a life where peace is your natural state, and calmness becomes your superpower. As you close this book, remember, the journey does not end here. Every day presents new opportunities to practice calm, to respond instead of react, and to live fully unbothered. The moment you apply even one of these principles, you step closer to the life of clarity, freedom, and peace you deserve. Your calm life begins now.